Hey everybody, welcome back to Trekyards. As always, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Quinel Cockings, and not as always. Wait, a third person, Stuart? Does that happen? It does sometimes.
We do have guests from time to time. So, who's joining us today? Introduce yourself.
Josh Irwin of the Avalon Universe fan films.
But Avalon Universe is a now mediumly long-running, it's been around a while, fan film web collection of videos that span all different tones, styles, sets, locations, green screen, practical. Go check it out.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't watched the Avalon Universe, check it out. Some really great and unique fan films, and I really enjoy them personally, and I like the little twists and takes you have on it. So today we're actually talking about your Klingon bird of prey, which the ships in your universe are quite unique for multiple reasons. So let's talk about it. Let's learn about the Klingons in your universe and just what's going on with this ship design.
It is worth noting that it's not, you say bird of prey, it's not a Burrell. That's a very important clarification. It's not the thing, it's not the reused model that was in everything from Star Trek 3 to end of DS9. It's not that, it's new. It's original, it's Avalon.
You know, I wanted to have a really cool battle with the Klingons. You know, there are a lot of fan films that you see, like, you know, take a look at Star Trek Continues, for example. They're going to say, we're about the storytelling. We're not about the big battles with the Klingons. And, you know, we're about the storytelling too, and we've told some very dramatic and compelling stories. I mean, right now our latest release, Cosmic Stream, is a very dramatic and character-driven film. But when we did Air and Darkness earlier this year, I just wanted to have a big battle with the Klingons. You know, I wanted to, you know, we did the really dramatic dying and crying, did the funny ghost ship story, and I wanted to have one that was just like, hey, let's just fight the Klingons for 20 minutes, and we did that, and that started in the Demons arc with the Bird of Prey, and the Bird of Prey was the most featured, you know, other ship other than the Excalibur in that film. And it was fun to, you know, I said, let's have two types of battles with the Klingons. Let's have the really big knockdown, drag out battle at the end of the story. But in Demons, let's make it more of a, hey, we're trapped in an asteroid field being stalked by this more maneuverable ship, and do something different. And so it was Sam's idea to use a Bird of Prey. And of course, it's like, well, if we're going to do an Avalon Bird of Prey, let's make it different.
Well, first of all, I love the changes to it. It's a bulkier, beefier ship, and it makes a little more sense practicality-wise because you got like impulse engines and you got some tie-ins with other Klingon ships, which I think is a huge deal. So, I mean, I love the redesigns that you guys do for the Avalon universe.
Okay, we're in an alternate universe. Let's make it look different. That's the point of the exercise. What I really like about Sam's approach is Sam always just says, let's not make it different just to make it different. Let's find a practical reason to make it different, which is the best way. He motivates those differences. This isn't just a Bird of Prey. It's a more beefier warship type Bird of Prey.
Yes.
Yeah, so I remember back at the impetus of pitching these stories that originally it was going to be a D7 in Demons, and then two D7s in the later film, which still amps it up, and I suggested just do a Bird of Prey, which, and I haven't read the script, it feels powerful, but then to have a capital ship, you know, in Star Trek, the D7 rarely feels like a single capital ship by itself, especially in DS9 when you see fleets of them getting annihilated with, you know, 3 photon torpedoes, as we know, Stuart. So I wanted to, you know, let's have this feel like this dreadnought, for this beefy ship, and so by setting up the side, the henchmen as being powerful, it double establishes D7 as being even more powerful, but in reading your script, it you know, to take on a Connie single-handedly with a relative chance of winning, there's you know, that story could have gone very easily the other way. It had to be something beefy, and the Excalibur just got refitted with new phasers. So, and it was, yeah, this isn't a Burrell, because a Burrell, you know, what do they say? What does Krug say in Star Trek 3, Stuart?
They outgun me 10-1 for the refit Enterprise versus the Bird of Prey. Plus, it's a scout ship, and it's, you know, 12 officers and men.
So it makes no sense to me that a Burrell would be the actual combat vessel. And, you know, we've talked about how it uses its cloak as its primary advantage. Now you look at the Enterprise era Bird of Prey, which Stuart is the biggest fan of. Now that clearly is a warship used in the show. It is used multiple times to great effect, far more weapons, doesn't have cloak, so it's actually a warship. So I thought, well, if we're going to do an actual assault vessel, let's make a TOS-ish warship version of the Bird of Prey. We can make it bigger, we can make it beefier, we can pull from Enterprise, which is the only example of canon warship variant.
Well, one of the things that stood out to me immediately, like I said, was the more beefed up look. Like the neck is not as slender, not as vulnerable. It's got a good stance to it, and just the build up on the back as well. As far as, like I said, from the rear, you got the impulse engines, which tie in with other Klingon ships that we've seen in the past. And I really love that because honestly, when you look at the bird of prey, you got no warp nacelles, you got no standard, Star Trek, propulsion systems. You can't see where the impulse engines might be. So I love that that's incorporated in. So what made you, like, Samuel, how did you start with this? Like, what was your idea?
I mean, fundamentally, everything's a kit bash in the abstract, because you want to keep those familiar lines. You don't want to change the angle. I mean, the Bird of Prey from Star Trek 3 is extremely good. Almost near perfect as an overall design. It's got some slight things, like you say, where's this and this, but that's... And so you want to keep as much of that as possible, and like the wings are almost perfect, and the head is almost perfect. But things like I almost fully removed the cloaking ring, made it smaller, changed the vibe because it's not as focused on that. The back was definitely a fun bit because it is the kitchen sink of what a bird of prey class. It has 4 impulse engines. I wanted that redundancy, that massive sense of speed that this thing can do massive maneuverability and yet have massive redundancy. Single warp drive unit, as you can see, which harkens to the Star Trek 6 Kronos 1, which is the only time we see it really have any ship have a warp unit. But it's there. So now it's here, obviously in a different format. And I was like, we're going to add a shuttle bay. Screw that, we're adding a shuttle bay.
That was the next thing I was going to say. Like, the addition of that shuttle bay on the back is beautiful because it definitely fleshes out the design.
I'm sure you're going to have me launch a shuttle at some point, Josh. Why not? It's waiting.
What really interests me is, like, I start to think the practical motivation again is like, why are the Klingon ships so much more built out in our universe? Like, what have the Klingons gone through in battle that made them go bigger, stronger? Like, it seems like maybe they lost a few more battles on this side of things, and so they're trying to compensate for something.
Well, for me, this Bird of Prey, certainly this could easily exist in TOS if you consider Enterprise as canon. This isn't so much an Avalon universe exclusive so much as what a Warship Bird of Prey would be. The D7 is definitely an exclusive, and we'll do an episode on that, where it is very different on purpose. And that could be, the flagship variant, etc., etc. But this is more trying to fit in, and I think because I haven't gone as far out the box, all the shapes kind of combine really well. It doesn't feel as outlandish, and I think in motion.
I thought it was really maneuverable, and it looked intimidating, and it definitely dealt some damage to the Excalibur, that's for sure.
But let's cut to something that Stuart's thing was less glorious. I have got some comparisons here to show kind of where I did and didn't pull stuff from. Let's start with the Enterprise era Bird of Prey. From the top view, you can see this one more different, but hopefully you can see parallels.
Step. It's a good evolution. There you go. And you can see the tile. Like, I definitely love the top part being handed over, because honestly, the top part of the Bird of Prey we see in the movies, it looks cool for what it is, but this one makes a lot more sense as far as things going on up there, which I love. Now, that was one thing I was going to ask about the size of this. Is this the same size as a Burrell, or is this like
much larger?
One of the larger Bird of Preys? Okay,
it's like 60-70% larger. Because the Burrell's not huge, or maybe 50%. But I think it's a little bit smaller than this one, but as tech does refine. I'd like to think, though, that, and I guess this will be Stuart's opinion here, that I've smoothed out the rough edges of the Enterprise Era one. I think, not to brag, I think my back view is much nicer than the Enterprise one.
Oh, yes. I'm not a fan of the as you guys know, the retro Bird of Prey, as I call it. I've told John Eves as much, the guy that designed it. And it's lanky. It looks too weak as a ship. It just got some really, like, I love that the wings are the size of your wings are the size of, like, the Bird of Prey wings. Like,
but for our Bird of Prey, we could easily include a new custom version of that bottom turret. There is a sort of a designated space to give a more powerful punch, or even add more guns on the sides, kind of get vaguely X-wing, but at the side. So it's a very simple variation to give the audience, okay, that's a heavy version.
One thing that I think would be cool with the way those side guns are designed is that after it does a strafing run and is flying away from the enemy ship, that those can actually swivel straight backwards and fire in reverse. I think that'd be cool. So adding something like that would be neat.
Certainly the bottom guns. I'm really proud of how our main guns turned out, though. They're a combination of the original Star Trek 3 and then John Eames' original concept for the Star Trek, we detailed in Star Trek 5, and then I re-sketched over it a load of things, what I wanted. So really, like, very deep. I mean, to the point where we can do a close up if you wanted to and just see them shoot like Star Trek V. They're designed in that way. But let's compare them directly to the one we all know and love, the Burrell itself. And these are definitely not to scale. Now, what do you guys think? Because it's definitely seem actually in contrast.
Like, it just feels more substantial to me, and the other one seems like it's more elegant. I like that this is kind of like a war class variant, where the original one was just a scout ship, literally to get in and check for things and not really be aimed at anything as a weapon necessarily. It's more relying on its stealth and cloak, as you said earlier. So you definitely got that across, especially with it being bigger than the original Bird of Prey.
And you can also see this now, put them side by side, you can see how the wings are actually different. They are quite a bit thicker. They end differently. They stick out further. The way it's all connected. The fact they're actually quite a lot further back than you'd think. These are subtle things that I built into the kit bash when I put it all together, just to kind of iterate on differences. Like this is what it's trying to be as a Bird of Prey, but actually it's less similar than you think, which is there. I think that's the golden thing, where you know what it is, you like what it is, but it's more different than you're going to give me credit for until you're like, oh yeah. For the Klingons in Avalon, they have an Enterprise E Nemesis style shield grid where it's actually to the hull. And if you look through the show pictures, and if you've seen the film, when it's being hit, it only phases certain segments. I don't know if that stood out to either of you as being interesting, because normally you have a shield bubble or you have a full half bubble.
Makes a lot more sense. Like, you got basically like a grid close to the hull of the ship, so it's not hitting shield 4, which is like the full reverse shield. I love that it's sectioned off, that it can actually be a little bit more effective in battle as far as getting damage. So that's actually a great idea.
But my logic here was that it's actually a properly tactical vessel, and so it has dedicated shield subsystems for multiple sections. So even if one part fails, it's all redundant. So it has just a body shield emitter, which doesn't even affect the other ones.
What I liked about it was when I saw the shield impact, I was like, ooh, I can add a shield impact sound effect for that. That was like, oh, okay, yeah, that got me going on sound design. So I went and found a fun shields being affected sound and put it in there. So that's kind of what I loved about it, is an opportunity to add a sound effect.
So there you go, guys. What do you think of this Avalon custom Bird of Prey? Unlike lots of ships and Trekyards that are fan originals, this thing has lots of in-motion time in multiple Avalon universe films. So do check them out, and maybe in more, maybe in cameos. Who knows? I haven't made them yet. He hasn't made them yet, but we're still making them.
Perfect.
I definitely think there'll be cameos from both of you at some point.
That excites me. All right, guys, so put in the comments down below what you think of this redesigned Bird of Prey. Let Joshua know what you think about the Avalon universe. And if you want to help them out, you can head on over to their Indiegogo, which is on now. They're going to be doing a bunch more cool stuff. And if you haven't checked their stuff out, go watch it. Trust me, it's worth it. I love their take on the Star Trek universe, or alternate universe, as it were. So comment down below what you think about it. And I'm sure Joshua will be reading those and replying to you guys down there. So make sure that you guys be part of the conversation.
Although obviously, most fan films use Indiegogo, but since Avalon Universe is an alternate universe, use the alternate universe platform. So talk about your campaign right now, and where it is and what it is.
We're actually on GoFundMe, and we don't have right now. We don't have the ability to offer physical perks, kind of at the moment, just kind of the situation we're in. But we can offer a few other unique perks, like maybe you want your voice to be somewhere in these films. Maybe I'm even talking to a few people offline about having like a featured background actor part, or a walk-on one line part. It's a thing where you can message me if you're interested in something like that. The doing a speaking part, or kind of having your voice, that one's a lot easier, and it's easier to do, it's easier to pay for, it's easier to integrate. So if you're interested in something like that, just message me and we'll figure it out. So we're trying to fund 3 different films with this, which is, that's weird, isn't it? We're, most campaigns it's one film, but we have one film that's in production right now called Agent of New Worlds. We're actually shooting in 2 days. And then we have another shoot planned for July 31st, and then we'll have our movie finished, and we're gonna hopefully be putting that out pretty soon, and then we're gonna shoot another one in September that we hope to have out in January, and then after that we're gonna be shooting a third one early next year. So we're gonna give you 3 fan films for 1 crowdfunding. That'll be the equivalent of the amount of money that was raised for Interlude. So instead of 1 film, you get 3, and which is kind of like what we did last time, where we raised money for Demons, but you also got Avalon Lost, and you also got Air and Darkness, and New Orders, and Cosmic Stream. So, we tend to over deliver on these films, partially because we've invested in them ourselves. So, but I've never not finished a film, so I'm a pretty dedicated individual.
So hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Check out the Avalon crowdfunding, and help them out if you can. And until next time, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Coggins.
And Commodore Austin Josh Irwin.
Gotta do that. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.